The aforementioned Adrian Broadus, Sebastian Perez Navarro. We are here on location out at Border City Alehouse, 1506 Lee Trevino, and we're going to be with you for the first really couple of hours of this show before we get you ready for kickoff for Game 2 of our doubleheader. Matter of fact, the first game is going to kick off in just a little over an hour. That's the Dolphins and the Titans. We'll be here for that, as well as Detroit and Seattle. And oh, my goodness gracious, we've got great, great prizes for you. Let's run them down, beginning with our friends at All That Music and Video Collectors Marketplace. They are located at the Fountains of Farah, just below the Best Buy parking lot. In fact, I was there earlier today. They are set up for Halloween. They've got great deals as well. They're already starting on the holiday gift time right now, so if you want to line up in advance, whether it's a hard-to-find, out-of-print LP or a brand-new LP, CDs, DVDs, posters, pops, Funkos, we got them all. Everything is there right now. It is one of the largest locally owned music and video shops in the entire Southwest, and it's right here in El Paso, All That Music and Video. They have provided us with the following, okay? This is the Miami Dolphins 1972-73 Super Bowl collection. I've got that on DVD. I've got a Tennessee Titans lanyard. I have bottle opener keychains for all four teams, Dolphins, Titans, Seahawks, Lions. We've got an Amon-Ra St. Brown Pop Funko, and we have a Geno Smith Pop Funko. We've got golf at Horizon Golf, thanks to Adrian Broadus. This is a cart and 2 green fees at Horizon Golf. We'll be giving that away. We're giving away a pair of Disney on Ice tickets for this Wednesday, 7:30, if you want to check out Disney on Ice. And we've got a Yingling T-shirt. We'll do it all at halftime of the Seattle-Detroit game coming up here in a couple of hours when they get started at 6:15 on 600 ESPN El Paso. Now, come on down. Happy hours here. We've got incredible food, the all-new menu. I've started to work my way through that until last Monday when Adrian was here covering for me. What'd you eat last Monday when you were here at the Alehouse,
Oh,
Adrian?
I told you this one, Steve, off air, and I'll tell you it again on air. Nashville hot chicken. It was fantastic. The new hot chicken sandwich that they have out there at Border City Alehouse with some onion rings on the side. It was so good, man.
Oh, my God. They have onion rings now?
Yes.
And you know what else they have? They have tater tots.
No way. I missed out on that.
Oh, my God, and I love tater tots. Yeah, so there's a lot of great stuff happening out here at the Alehouse. Can't wait. I'm watching the Mets right now. They got first and second, 2 outs, top 5. And it's Luis Torrens battling in a 1-0 Braves lead. This has been the craziest day ever for Mets baseball. That was the wildest game. We have to have a live look at, and I'm a little worried about him, Adrian. I'm not going to lie, but somebody right now needs to find Alfonso and make sure he's okay, because that Braves fan is like on a different level. And the way that first game went back and forth, it was one of the crazy. They're already calling it the greatest Mets regular season game of all time. That's what they're calling it after the Mets scored 6, gave up 2 in the bottom of the 8th, and then came back with 2 to win the game in the most incredible fashion. I mean, that game was bonkers. 8-7 Mets. They're in the playoffs. Simply put, if the Mets win this game, they knock the Braves out, and the Diamondbacks continue to play. But Torrens just grounded unassisted to Gio Urshela at third to end the Mets' threat. So it's going to be 1-0. Heading into the bottom of the 5th inning. So the Braves survived that. But Braves have to win this game in order to get into the playoffs. Mets are already in because they won the first game, which means the Diamondbacks will make the playoffs if the Mets knock the Braves out and win Game 2. If the Braves win Game 2, Arizona's out, and the Mets and Braves are both going on to the wild card round along with the San Diego Padres. That is madness, Adrian. It is madness every single way you try to draw up what this wild doubleheader has been like today at Truist Park in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine, Steve? We do 160 plus of these, and it all comes down to the final 2. Like that's why baseball to me is so interesting. I mean, for our diehards like you, our diehards like Adolfo, who you mentioned earlier earlier, like the big Braves fan who watches all these 162 or keeps up with 162. For all of it to go down to the last game and for it to be as a roller coaster ride as it was, I mean, I think you're ready to name, a future grandson, Steve Francisco, after Francisco Lindor's performance today. Am I right on this?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Look, I'm checking out Adolfo's Twitter feed. He hasn't tweeted since yesterday. His last tweet said, "Tie for church is ready," and it had the Braves logo. And it said, "A win and we are in. So let's just win." Well, they didn't win. And they didn't win the first game, so they have to win this game. Listen, I'm scared of the Braves. They're a dangerous team. But for the sake of Adolfo, because he's such a great listener to Sports Talk, I'm such a big fan of the radio station, and I love the guy, I want to see the Braves get into. Sorry, Diamondbacks fans, but, that's just the way it is. And somebody will say, Mets fans can't root for the Braves. Listen, they're a great team. They really are. The Mets, what can you say? They were dead in the water, and they came back and scored 6 times in the 8th and 2 in the 9th to win. It was the wildest ending I think I've seen in a ball game. Noah Guerrero summed it up great. One of the better regular season games in recent memory. All the stakes, drama, back and forth. You could not start postseason baseball any better than that. Well, technically, Noah, we're still in the games 161 and 162 of the season because of the rain out earlier. These aren't even playoff games, although they feel like playoff games. They really, really did. Okay, so... And by the way, the Braves could have pitched Chris Sale in this do-or-die game, and they haven't. So how about that? How about the fact that they scratched Chris Sale knowing they had to win this game to get in? It's almost like the Braves were banking on beating the Mets when they're taking some of the Mets stars out, figuring they can rest Chris Sale for a wild card game.
Yeah, they threw the kitchen sink in that first one thinking that they'd have it. And I honestly, Steve, I thought they had it too. Even when Edwin Diaz was up and he was dealing and then he gives that go-ahead run, I thought, oh, it's over. That's it. Ozzie Albies had that one right there, and I just thought it was over. But then Edwin Diaz comes back out. Like, how many times does that actually happen where he comes back out and then he continues to deal and then the Mets end up winning the game? So I was very impressed with Edwin Diaz. I know I started off talking about Francisco Lindor, but the way that he was able to persevere through those couple innings at the end, that was impressive.
How about former Chihuahua Joey Lucchesi pitching for the Mets right now into the 5th already, only giving up 1 run so far?
There you go. I like it.
So, yep, he's with the Mets, and Lucchesi trying to knock the Braves right out of the playoffs and give the Diamondbacks life. Because if the Diamondbacks, the only way they can get in is if the Mets sweep this series. So it's crazy. All right. We got so much to talk about today. Sad day this morning hearing about Dikembe Mutombo, 58 due to brain cancer. Hard to believe that he is gone, considering the kind of effect he had on and off the court for so many years in the sport of basketball. I definitely want to talk about that. I want to talk to a lot of you and get your phone calls in today at 505-6009, but why don't we just begin with the news everybody wants to know, and that is, what's the latest regarding UTEP? So far, there is no news today regarding UTEP. And after the weekend and everything that's happened, and not to say nothing could break in the next couple of hours, it definitely could break. But, Adrian, I kind of feel like this is how UTEP wants it right now. In other words, they have already probably made their intentions known privately under the radar without it leaking out from national members of the media. So if that's the case, whatever they're planning on doing, they want to keep it so close to the table, so under wraps that nothing is going to get out and put them in that potentially dangerous decision if an invite from either the Pac or the Mountain West never comes and they're forced to stay in Conference USA. So I know a lot of people are thinking, well, you think they're going to get to the Pac, you think they're going to get to the Mountain West. Look, right now, all we know is what we're hearing, okay? Do we know for sure that Texas State had the verbal offer to go into the Mountain West? No, it's been reported, but we don't know that because Texas State hasn't confirmed it, nor have they accepted any invite, nor has the Mountain West even commented that any invite's been given. The Pac has done nothing. Sacramento State, meanwhile, according to a report I saw on Twitter from the front office sports.com, I think Amanda is the author there. They've raised $34 million of NIL money in 24 hours from businesses, people in the community. And my favorite, according to release, said a tribe gave them money. So I don't know how much the tribe gave them also, but how wild is that? Sacramento State, who wants to go up to the Pac-12, they're calling themselves the Sac-12 because they're in the FCS right now, but they want to move up, have a $34 million NIL commitment in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome right there. It tells you they have the financial commitment. And, you look at the bottom school right now in the Pac-12 and what they're doing. I mean, we're just talking NIL dollars right here. We're not really talking a specific sport. We're not talking really about what they would need as far as an athletic department budget or anything like that goes. We know that Fresno State, as far as the new Pac-8 or the Pac-7, whatever we're talking about right here, they've got a floor of about a $50 million per year budget in their athletic department for Fresno State. So if Sacramento State is willing to do this for NIL, I'm curious what they're willing to do for an athletic department budget and really leverage the city for Sacramento. You talk about the Kings. That's really it in terms of professional sports out there for Sacramento. Why not make it to where your college team is almost like your professional team in sports like football and men's basketball?
AAA baseball is all they have. Other than that, right? That's the Giants, a AAA affiliate in Sacramento. Amanda Kristovich is the writer for Front Office Sports. She's on Twitter and X at A. Kristovich with an extra H. She's got two H's at the end of her name. So she reported earlier that the Sac-12, the committee helping them get to the FBS level, has raised $35 million in NIL funds in the last 24 hours. So according to the co-chair, Josh Wood, their ultimate goal is $50 million, but the comment is the money demonstrates the civic plus business commitment of all those in the greater Sacramento region. Now, here's the one thing I think that needs to be said, okay? $35 million in NIL is great. Really, it's ridiculous. It's more money than most people could ever dream of. But to move up to FBS, you need like $50 million a year. So the question is Sacramento State ready to pump in $50 million in operating expenses per year? Not just a one-off to move up and put the $35 million in, but they've got to have enough money to not only get in, but keep this thing going year after year.
And, obviously the TV budget and the revenue that they get from that helps out, but it doesn't help you right off the gate. Like, it's an investment by your institution that has to be a commitment from your people up top. And if that ends up being the case, then Sacramento puts themselves in an excellent spot to be acquired. I mean, you're talking about the West Coast. You're talking about making a lot of geographic sense. You're talking about a TV market right there that could also have some substance. So I feel like with that move right there, to me, it does make sense. I don't know if it would be a stable member, and I'm talking about, hey, this is our final member right here. This is it. This is where we're going. I don't know what that does for the Pac-8 at that point. I feel like this should be one membership that they try to pursue, but then still try to pursue somebody else like a Texas State or whoever else.
I saw one report saying that the Sacramento State is in like the $35 million range right now as an FCS school. That's a ton of money for FCS if that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it's even in the ballpark of UTEP. I'm not saying it's more, but it's in the ballpark of what UTEP spends on a per-year basis for their athletic department.
That's so true. That is so true. So nothing has broken yet today. I still feel like something's going to happen, but let me just, again, stress a couple of things. Number one, if you think UTEP's not working this, you're crazy. They are. They're just not making their opinions known publicly. They're trying as best they can to keep everything that's happening under the radar. So that way, nothing leaks because they don't want to be in that awkward position with Conference USA, hoping that if it doesn't work out, that Conference USA will keep them around in the league and not look to kick them out and make them an independent. And Adrian, at this point, I don't blame them. I really don't. I feel like they know what everybody wants. They probably know what they want. They're just not ready to start using the national writers as a publicity campaign because, as we all know, there's zero guarantee they're going to get out of this league and go anywhere else right now.
Yeah, if you're looking for any kind of certainty, if you're trying to confirm with people or hey, because this person on Twitter put this out, this is how it's going, I'd beg you to reconsider that notion right there, because it seems like there's only a handful, and maybe that's even a stretch, Steve. It seems like less than a handful of people actually are plugged in on this, actually know what's going on with this whole situation for UTEP and the Mountain West or UTEP and any other conference here in the future. So until I see a notification from a Pete Thamel or maybe a Nicole Arbach or something like that, I'm not, or a Chris Vanini, who's been on this show before and a friend of ours, I'm not really going to believe anything until one of those dominoes falls. And so all we're going to hear is rumors up until that point. And I think it's important for us to tread lightly with all of that.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think that there's a couple of people right now, as we mentioned, that could have something. Amanda Kristovich seems to be pretty plugged in right now to the Sacramento State in the pack, so she could. Pete Thamel could from ESPN. Brett McMurphy could from Action Sports. Ross Dellinger could from Yahoo. Vanini as well from The Athletic. They're the big ones right now. They're the ones, and then also keep an eye on Jeff Grammer, because he's got a great amount of knowledge from Albuquerque and how New Mexico is looking into this whole thing. So, yeah, it's interesting. Did I think something could break by today? I absolutely did, and it still might later tonight. I'm a little surprised that nothing has come to the surface just yet, but a lot of talk, a lot of possibilities. Texas State is one domino. We'll see where that falls. I've heard a lot about Tarleton State and the amount of money they have, and that they're just like Sacramento State. They would love to buy themselves up to the FBS level. But remember one thing, okay, and this is also a very, very important thing to note. The College Football Playoff, the CFP, they're not looking for more schools coming in right now to the FBS. They don't want that, because that means that it could be somebody else that could get a piece of that pie and that puzzle from the lesser schools, from the group of five. So they're not ready to start seeing massive expansion. That's the one avenue that people don't talk about, is that you want to know something? If they tell the pack, hey, listen, go find somebody from within FBS, Adrian, and don't go and expect somebody to just buy themselves in. We're not ready for more teams coming up. Then conferences aren't going to look to that avenue right now.
Yeah, think about who has the most leverage in these discussions. It's the big dogs, the SEC and the Big Ten. Think about who wants those final college football playoff spots. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. It's not the group of five. So if you're telling me that there's a guarantee for any of these conferences, they're going to vote against it. They're going to say, wait a second, you're taking revenue away from our conferences, potentially, if we have some teams who could actually be in this conversation and actually compete at a high level for the college football playoff. Yeah, that's where the argument gets real dicey.
All right, we're just getting going. 20 past. We'll get to phone calls today. 505-6009 if you want to weigh in. We got so much to cover over the next 2 hours. We'd love to hear from you as we get started. It's Border City Alehouse, Sports Talk Live, and Charlie One, who's first up with this traffic update. Remember, we are live today, Border City Alehouse. Come down, hang out with us, watch not just one but two football games. You want to come early right now, you can watch the Mets and Braves. Simply put, Braves win, they're in. Mets are already in because they won game one today of this doubleheader. If the Mets win again, then the Diamondbacks will be in. In fact, I'm looking at some of the messages coming in on the on our app. This comes from Pinky. I'm with you. No snakes in MLB postseason. Go Braves. There you go. All right. Pinky also mentions regarding Sacramento, there are many casinos around and in Sacramento. I was there last summer. All right. Thank you, Pinky. So there it is. Pinky telling us a lot of casinos. Makes sense. I mean, they're getting casino dollars. They are. So, that's another thing. And you kind of say to yourself, well, we have no idea the breakdown of how they got $35 million in 24 hours, but they did. And it's big. It's really, really big. Jorge Soler just doubled with one out in the bottom of the sixth. So the Braves now with a runner on second in scoring position, one out, up by one. And big knock for Lucchesi. Big knock off Lucchesi as the Braves try to put this one together. So back, though, to our first discussion, and that is, all the conference talk, and that's UTEP and what's going to happen. Look, I know what fans say. We've gotten the messages. I've spoken to people. I've seen the message boards, the emails, all the fan talk. Adrian, we know what the fans want. Fans would love to get in the pack. They would also be happy with the Mountain West, but most fans will tell you whatever happens, they just don't want to they don't want to stay in Conference USA. That seems to be the message we've received from about 80% of everyone who's weighed in on this.
Yeah, and that's a little depressing too, Steve, at least in my eyes, because it sounds like, if you don't make a conference change, then we're out. Like we're out on our interests, we're out on the distrust and all that kind of stuff, which I don't know how fair that is. I mean, look, realignment is so fluid. You just want these two decision makers, and I'm talking about Heather Wilson, Dr. Heather Wilson and Jim Center, to be proactive in these discussions. So if they don't make it for whatever reason, well, that could be on the conference that they're trying to join, or it could be on Conference USA, or it could be on finances, whatever it is. But I think UTEP fans, at the end of the day, I think all they're really hoping is that that this administration, this front office, so to speak, for UTEP is being proactive in these conversations.
Let me put it this way, okay? UTEP has not been in the Mountain West Conference in the 26 years since they formed. Do you really necessarily think that suddenly now they're going to get in because they're one of the few options left? I mean, we're already hearing Texas State has been called, and the MAC schools, Toledo and Northern Illinois, was their idea for a football-only concept. But what I'm trying to say is that you're 100% right. Heather Wilson and Jim Center can do everything in their power to try and position UTEP to get into one of these conferences. But no matter what they do, it's not up to them. It's up to the leagues themselves if they want to invite UTEP. And like I said, the Mountain West has not invited, the invite hasn't come before. And now you wonder, will it even happen this time around, or will they go in another direction? I mean, it's not exactly like the Mountain West has been beating down UTEP's door since they split apart in 98 to have the Miners come on board. There was a reason they left them behind in 98 and kept them on the other end of the WAC. And they didn't felt like they wanted them to belong with them then. So who's to say that they want them now? I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of anybody in the Mountain West. But we have heard for years that New Mexico wanted no part of UTEP in the same league with them. So, there's that to think about. And as far as the PAC goes, I couldn't tell you what those schools are thinking. I mean, think of it this way. The PAC was thinking big. They took the schools from the Mountain West that they wanted, and then they went after the schools from the American Athletic Conference that they wanted. They were trying to cherry-pick both leagues. The difference is the Mountain West said yes, and the American Athletics said, no, we're gonna stick around. UTSA, Memphis, Tulane, USF, we're not going to look to go anywhere. We're going to stay put. So that's your difference right now. So I don't know if UTEP is going to get any kind of an invite from either of these two leagues. And UTEP, quite frankly, probably doesn't know either, which is why they're not going to go out and publicly campaign. Texas State probably felt like, hey, we got nothing to lose. Our football team is having a great start, even though we just lost to Sam Houston State. We're making, we're building a brand. We've got money. We got a lot going on. We're in San Marcos, great place to be. What's the Sun Belt going to do? Kick us out? No, that's not going to happen. So, yeah, we'll be more than happy to try to publicly position ourselves to get out. UTEP can't do that right now. Their football team is 0-4. Their basketball team hasn't been to the NCAA tournament in 14 years. We already know all that stuff. So UTEP, if they're going to go, Adrian, like we said at the beginning of the program, they've got to play it on the down low and make sure nothing leaks for them, and then hope that, they've made their intentions clear, and possibly the powers that be will decide in the end to give them an invitation if they feel like UTEP could be a positive addition to either league.
Yeah, and I'll also reflect back to a couple. Wow, Steve, we just saw a huge shot right there. Is that a replay? I'm sorry, I'm locked in on this baseball game too. Here for the Mets right here.
Yeah, that was the home run from the Mets in the 8th inning or the 9th inning from Francisco Lindor to give the Mets the lead.
Okay.
That was the game. That was the big one.
Okay, I'm just locked in on this one. Just making sure we're not talking about any homers here. But for this one right here, when Center has joined us, Jim Center has joined us and talked about conference realignment and conference expansion specifically, he's told us in kind of a matter-of-fact way that this school needs to focus on CUSA. They need to focus on winning in order to have the leverage in these discussions in order to make a move in the future. And that was when the first round of realignment happened and the first time when all these schools and universities were leaving for other conferences. So I'm curious as to now, how has UTEP's leverage in these discussions been, knowing that on the field or on the court, they haven't had a lot of those success?
It's a great point. 505-6009 if you want to get into the show. 505-6009. Top 7. Mets trail 1-0 to the Braves. They are batting right now. And we will get back to that and a whole lot more as we continue. But first, let's get over to Sebastian and get this bottom of the hour Sports Center update. God, the cadence story. That's hilarious. I mean, look, let me say this. It's not a cadence issue. I watched that stupid game yesterday. They got a terrible head coach. That's just what it comes down to. Look, Robert Saleh.
Wow.
Oh, man. Did you watch the game?
Yes, but I'm surprised we're here today, September 30th, with you saying this now.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I've never really been a huge Saleh guy. I've been okay with him, but I don't know, man. Every time I watch the Jets when they're struggling, I always feel like Saleh has, no clue. There are certain coaches that when a team is not playing well, you feel they can figure out a way to right the ship. And there are others that just have that look. And I feel like Saleh sometimes just has that look. You know what I mean? They played so bad yesterday. They deserved to lose to the Broncos. They were just trash from start to finish. And, I mean, how is Robert Saleh, after the way the Jets played, suddenly going to take shots at Rodgers for the way he's always run his offense his entire career and throw? I didn't even know what the word cadence was as far as football and the Jets go until yesterday. And now all of a sudden, that's the buzzword that everybody's been talking about for the last 24 hours.
Yeah, it seems like they're making a lot of nothing right here. And for Rodgers, he's the most black and white type of quarterback out there. So he's trying to dismiss this whole notion right here from Saleh. I'm with you, Steve. I was pretty much I had a big red flag when he was double downing on Zach Wilson last year after the Rodgers injury. So for me, I've been kind of out on this Saleh experience right here, and it feels like he's coaching for his life here. I mean, he's coaching for his job for sure. If they don't have a postseason kind of season right here with this group and string along more wins, then he's going to have some real bad trouble to stay as the Jets head coach.
No doubt. Let's go to the phones. Eddie's in Fort Bliss as we continue here on Sports Talk. 505-6009, our telephone number. 505-6009 as we continue. Eddie, how are you?
I'm well, Steve. I would ask how your weekend was, but I just heard about the Jets, and I just got a question for you. What makes you worse as a Jets fan? Is it the fact that you got Robert Saleh as the head coach, or the fact that somebody finally unlocked Sam Darnold?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, it's great. Darnold still made his mistakes yesterday in the second half. He looked great in the first half, looked like an MVP, and then the second half threw some picks, and before you know it, gave Green Bay a chance to get back into that game before they finally put it away. So Darnold's playing the best football of his career. It's clear that coaching has made the difference for him. Leaving New York has made the difference for him. But Saleh is just one of these guys that, and part of the problem is, they've got Nate Hackett running the show offensively. He's another one. I know he's a Rodgers favorite, but the game plan was awful yesterday. Zerline missed some field goals. The weather was terrible. It was just an awful football game to watch. I had that game on, and I was watching the Green Bay-Minnesota game at the same time. And, the Green Bay game was much more interesting to me. Let's put it that way.
Wasn't Hackett the coach that the Broncos brought in a special teams coordinator to clock manage? I'm just saying.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. What else going on, Eddie?
The last thing I want to get on to with playoffs starting tomorrow. By the way, congratulations on your Mets.
Thank you very much.
Win this afternoon.
Appreciate
sure
that.
You
They
are,
got one more to go.
Sure, you are very excited for that starting tomorrow. But I can't wait to watch the Royals-Orioles game because you've got two Cy Young contenders in Reagans and Burns.
Yep.
And that kicks it off. That's going to be a great matchup. And then you're going to have Scrubble and Valdez. And that's another great matchup. Playoff baseball is here, and we are finally happy.
No, you're right. The matchups are terrific. I'm excited. We have Tigers-Astros at 12:30 tomorrow, Royals-Orioles at 2, and then whoever wins this game, it's either going to be the D-backs or the Mets against the Brewers, and then the Braves or the Mets against the Padres. So, if the Mets knock out the Braves, they'll play the Brewers. Actually, I guess that's the way it works. Or let me think how this would happen. No, wait. The Mets, if the Mets knock out the Braves, then the Brewers play the D-backs. If the Mets lose to the Braves, then they'll play the Padres. That's how it's going to be. So,
yeah, it's going to be fun to watch tomorrow. That's for sure.
That's for sure. You're 100% right on that. Absolutely. Good job, Eddie. Hey, congrats on the Baltimore victory over Buffalo last night. Very, very impressive win.
I was just about to say that. Henry, wow. For people who thought he was washed up, last 2 weeks, almost 350 yards over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he looked amazing. He did. He looked absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I would say he's not washed up. That's for sure. All right, good stuff. Appreciate you, Eddie. 20 in front of 5 as we continue live out here at Border City Alehouse. 1506 Lee Trevino. Leadoff base runner for the Braves with nobody out, bottom of the 7th. They lead the Mets 1-0. If they win, they're in. Simple as that. When we come back, UTEP football press conference earlier today as they get ready for their game Thursday against Sam Houston State. What went down? We'll tell you about it. Next, Adrian was there, and we'll give you all the details. 600 ESPN El Paso. Like the Mets will go back to Milwaukee to take on the Brew Crew beginning tomorrow at 3:30 at American Family Field. Boy, how tough is that? You imagine you play a doubleheader, you board a plane, you go to Milwaukee, and you got to play game 1 at 3:30 tomorrow?
Man, what a turnaround right there. That's why I wonder, in these final couple innings, is there any point that the Mets say, oh, you know what, we're good? Or, do you see some urgency that is valuable to have? Like that throw that we just saw right there to tag the runner out.
What do you want to do, Adrian? Do you want to fly? Do you want to fly to San Diego and play the Padres 2 hours later tomorrow? Or do you want to go to Milwaukee? That's the other question. You're either going all the way from Atlanta to San Diego or you're going from Atlanta to Milwaukee.
Yeah, either way, it's terrible, right? Either way, it's an uphill battle in order to try to get a win tomorrow. The hope is you just keep that game close and try to steal it.
Well, right now the Mets are 6 outs away from making sure that the Braves also get into the playoffs, and Atlanta would play San Diego. That'll be a pretty interesting series. And then who strikes out the most? That would be the Arizona Diamondbacks, who will not get into the playoffs if the Braves and the Mets both split today and each of them get in. All right, 9 in front of 5. The Sports Talk continues. 505-6009, our telephone number. Let me go to Fernie, who joins us next on the program. Hey, Fernie, how are you?
You know what, man, Steve, I think we're going to get screwed out of Mountain West or not even Pac-12. I don't even think about that. We're going to get screwed out of the Mountain West. We're going to get overlooked. I just feel it that we don't have the money. And then I was reading something today. Is it $900,000 to leave Conference USA, or is it $2 million?
No, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Adrian, correct me on this, I think it's closer to $2 million than anything else.
You're right on that.
Where are we going to come up with $2 million? I mean, I'm willing to chip it in, right? But where are we going to come up with $2 million, man?
So the original idea was that the Mountain West was going to be so desperate to add UTEP that they were going to be able to pay UTEP's exit fee and waive the entry fee. And now you're starting to feel like, there's no chance that's going to happen because there's other schools that want to get into the Mountain West as bad, if not more, than UTEP that would probably say we'll cover our own fees to get in.
Yeah, I mean, Texas State has more cash than UTEP. I mean, that's bottom line right there.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd be willing to consider, like, we have to stay in Conference USA, maybe even consider going into the Sun Belt. I mean, that pays out a lot better when it comes to, bowl games and whatever at the end of the year. So that might be a possibility because it's pretty much the same,
Have you looked at the Sun Belt Conference? Have you actually taken a look to see who's in that league as you're saying that? Because I think that's also the biggest thing is to understand who's in the Sun Belt. So if you left Conference USA for that league, you'd be going to play up against Georgia Southern, James Madison, Coastal Carolina, Marshall, Old Dominion, Appalachian State, Georgia State, Louisiana Monroe, South Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas State, Southern Miss, and Troy. Like, I'm a hard pass on that one, too.
Some of the teams that were in the Conference USA, and then they went above us. They
went above you. They went above not because they just wanted to get to a better region, which is closer to where they all play more than anything else. You're not scattered like Conference USA. Look, I get it, but I'm just telling you. I mean, if you can't afford buyouts, you're not going anywhere. And the truth of the matter is, their football program is winless right now. And when you're not able to win games, it is difficult to command interest in other leagues, no matter who you are.
I know that, man. I mean, I got season tickets. I mean, I die with the Miners, but, I mean, it just looks kind of bleak right now. I don't think there's going to be any movement for us. So that's my opinion. We'll see you guys.
All right, appreciate it, Fernie. I mean, I don't know if I would say it's bleak, but I definitely think, like, if you ask me right now, Mountain West, Pac-12, or CUSA, I'd probably say CUSA. I probably feel like when it's all said and done, they're staying. Adrian, I want to get your thoughts on that. Sebastian, and I mentioned football. We'll talk about that as well in hour number 2. Stay with us live at Border City Alehouse at Sports Talk at 600 ESPN El Paso.
Liberty Schoolyard Sports Studio. Here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
All right, hour number 2 of Sports Talk is underway. We are live, Border City Alehouse, getting you ready for Monday Night Football. Doubleheader this hour. First, we're going to have the Dolphins and the Titans. Then we're going to have the Seahawks and the Lions out here at the Alehouse. Hey, by the way, the menu has expanded. They have 4 kinds of burgers, including their smash burger with the 2 quarter-pound patties smashed and served with your favorites. They've got the cheesy smash burger, the bacon cheese, and the green chili cheese. Of course, their Alehouse chicken wings, which has 6 different flavors: hot and honey, hot and spicy, lemon pepper, spicy lemon pepper, garlic parm, and mango habanero. They also have tater tots. They've added the onion rings to the menu. They've got the natural cut fries and pretzel bites. I'm excited about that. And when you talk about their food items, whether it's the glizzy, the flatbreads, their taco and tequila shop, their sandwiches, they've got the Nashville Hot as well, which Adrian talked about last hour, or other great items like the Philly cheesesteak. There's something for everyone. And don't forget, every day from 9 to close, $1.50 wings and $6 pizzas, all happening here at the home for Monday Night Football, Border City Alehouse. And our prizes tonight are going to be awesome. We've got golf at Horizon Golf, and that's a cart and 2 green fees. Tickets to Disney on Ice this Wednesday night at 7:30. We also are going to be giving away some UTEP football tickets for Wednesday night's game as well. Excited about that. Send you out to the Sun Bowl to go watch the Miners and Sam Houston State. We've got a Yingling T-shirt. We've got from our friends at All That Music and Video, Collectors Marketplace, talking about the Fountains of Farah, just below the Best Buy parking lot as the Braves have clinched the playoffs, Adrian, and just won moments ago, 3-0 over the Mets. We're going to be giving away from all that music a couple of Pop Funkos. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We also have Geno Smith. So a couple of Pop Funkos to give away. That Amon-Ra St. Brown is awesome, by the way. I love it. When was the last time you saw a Detroit Lions Pop Funko? But thank you very much, Pop, for the Amon-Ra St. Brown. We also are going to be giving away bottle opener keychains for the Dolphins, the Titans, the Seahawks, and the Lions. We've got a Titans lanyard, and we have a Dolphins DVD of their Super Bowl wins from 72 and 73 seasons. All right. 505-6009. That is our telephone number, 505-6009. If you're just joining us, hoping as you're going home from work to get an update on what's going on with UTEP, no update, no news right now. No news for UTEP. Although I did see this on the app from SportsTalk Carlos. Some callers, Carlos says, just think that joining a conference is like joining a gym or the McDonald's rewards program. LOL at the last caller saying UTEP should join the Sun Belt. Listen, we've said it earlier. We'll say it again. Some fans are wondering, will Heather Wilson and Jim Center position UTEP for a move? The answer is absolutely yes. The next question is, will they get an invite? That remains to be seen. But please understand that unlike years past, where we know Diana Natalicio, the late Diana Natalicio, made her intentions clear that she always wanted to stay with all the Texas schools in Conference USA, who ended up leaving UTEP behind. That is not the case with this administration. They're just not going public with anything, and smart move. Keep it under wraps. Because they don't know if they're even going to get an invite. They might not. UTEP might stay in Conference USA. In fact, if you asked me right now, do I think when it's all said and done, where will UTEP go? I'll be the first to tell you that right now, as of 5:07 on Monday, September 30th, I would say Conference USA, Adrian. That would be my pick of the three.
I would as well, and just knowing how this has kind of gone so far, and just where UTEP is currently as a school, they are not a winning football school. They are not a consistent basketball school that wins and hangs banners in Conference USA. So just where they're at right now, yeah, they might be on par with some resources that other schools have in the Mountain West. They don't have the budget that some of these other schools have, so they would have to commit financially to join one of these conferences. So I think there's a lot of factors in right now, and just based on everything we've been hearing, we're hearing more when it comes to like Texas State being in rumors right now than we are UTEP, and that would lead me to believe that if I had to decide right now where I'm at, I still feel like Conference USA.
And by the way, okay, they had 41,000 for their first home game against Southern Utah, but on Thursday night, if they have 10,000 for their game against Sam Houston State, how do you think that looks for conferences that are still considering UTEP and at least right now putting them in the equation? Doesn't look good, does it? It really doesn't.
I agree with that completely, Steve. No, I'm totally behind that one too.
Sebastian, I know, speaking of UTEP, you had the opportunity to interview John Teicher. And this is important because you did this as part of Monero Magazine. That's the UTEP student-led, award-winning bilingual magazine. It's called Monero Magazine. What was it like for you to sit down and go one-on-one with the voice of the Miners?
It was a surreal experience, Steve, to say the least. I had previously emailed Mr. Teicher a week back, and originally I thought that it wouldn't be able to come to fruition. He was super nice. It was easy setting everything up. And 5 minutes before, I was a little bit losing my mind. Not losing my mind, but just anticipating it. It was an honor to interview him. And what I loved about it was the anecdotes in which I was able to hear from him. John Teicher knows UTEP history at the back of his mind. It's like if you're having a conversation with somebody and just drop like a random quotation or just a random conversation, boom. All of UTEP's history. And the way in which was elaborated was rich. The interview was short because everything in which I needed to hear from a reporter spectrum, and a little bit of a fan spectrum was already said. And it was an honor and it was a pleasure. The stories in which I was able to hear and the analysis. I won't go too deep into the analysis since it'll spoil the story a little bit. However, UTEP's in safe hands. From what Teicher has seen, from what prospects and experts have seen, UTEP's in safe hands. And we as the fans have the duty to believe. And if you want to know more, just wait till January.
Looking forward to it. All right. Meanwhile, phone lines open for business. 505-6009, our telephone number. 505-6009. Where do you think UTEP will end up when it's all said and done? I thought something would have happened and some kind of movement would have taken place as of now. I really felt like when we were on the air, we would have some clarity, at least in the direction that the Pac and the Mountain West are going. I still feel like it's happening this week. It's just, Adrian, it's not happening maybe as quickly as we thought. I didn't expect it to go on Saturday because of games, but normally Sunday, Monday is when these things take place. Just did not happen as quickly as we would have expected.
Yeah, and we forget now we're talking about all of this going on when the most financially beneficial sport is taking place, right? Football season's going on right now. It's not like the last cycle of realignment or whenever that ended up taking place when it felt like it was the off season, the summer, not when actual games were being played in the biggest sport out there when it comes to finances, and that's football. And right now we're talking about UTEP getting ready for a Conference USA weeknight slate here in October that'll take over this month when it comes to football. So, yeah, when do you fit the time to actually have these conversations at the top with your commissioners or conference commissioners and stuff like that?
Good point. All right. You went to UTEP football, the weekly press conference today with Scotty Walden, and I'm very curious to hear. I know you posted a lot today on Twitter and X and kind of gave about 4 or 5 different examples from Coach Walden and some of the different things he talked about. But I would also be curious as some of your takeaways today as the Miners try to win their first game of the season, but again, have to do it against a Sam Houston State team that was getting absolutely hammered on Saturday by Texas State and came back from a large deficit to pull out that win.
Yeah, for Sam Houston, first off, down 22-0, ends up rallying back, winning that game against Texas State, who a lot of people believe one of the best Group of 5 football programs out there. It says a lot about Sam Houston and how they kind of want to be a dark horse team out of CUSA. They're not as good as Liberty. They're not as good as Western Kentucky, but they want to be in that mix right there as maybe one of the top 3 teams in this league. The biggest issue that I took away was something away from the press conference. This is Zay Galindo who threw out this stat out there. I think it's the stat of the week. UTEP's last home win against an FBS opponent was 681 days ago, November 19th, 2022. We've gotten back to the countdown, Steve. We've gotten back to starting to count days since the last UTEP win. We haven't done this since the Dana Dimmel era when he first arrived here in like 2018. But that's where UTEP fans are at, and where the team is at is they want to silence all the noise on the outside. They want to focus in on their squad, and they believe that they're getting better each and every week. Will that quantify to wins? Will that lead to something like that? I don't know.
All right, let's go to the phones. Chuco is going to join us next as we continue at 14 past the hour. 505-6009. We are live hanging with you at Border City Alehouse, 1506 Lee Trevino. Titans-Dolphins coming up soon, and then next hour it will be the Lions and the Seahawks. Should be a good one. Chuco, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. I wanted to start out by congratulating the UTEP volleyball team for their sweep last week of FIU. So good for them. And then also to congratulate Coach Wallace for celebrating 100 wins.
Yeah, they had a great trip. Great trip to Miami and taking care of business in dominant fashion. Really excited about what he's been building over there. And as we all know, it seems like right now, the only thing that hasn't happened yet for UTEP volleyball is that trip to the NCAA tournament, which hopefully will happen here later this year.
Well, I've said it before. We've got the conference championships here in town, so
yep.
That's an automatic bid, and we've got to come out and support. And a little bit about fans wanting us to switch conferences, and I'm of the opinion, boy, if we could just take care of business and get some winning teams and put some streaks together, and that would help so much. But yeah, fans, I don't know. I just want them to just. It's not a cure-all. It'd be nice if we could stay regional, but we've got pressing issues that we've got to, in my opinion, take care of first. And the soccer team had a tough week last week. They lost both matches, and we've just got to put something together that can show any conference that we're definitely worth their time and membership.
Yeah, you're right. Look, soccer has not had the opportunity to really get their program turned around the way things have been happening with volleyball. It just hasn't happened yet. And granted, this is only year 2 now, and it's going to take Gibbs Keaton a little time, but you're hoping that as they bring in more players into the pipeline, and they're very young right now, we'll start to see that transformation take place soon.
Correct. And that's where I ask UTEP fans, I know losing isn't fun. Trust me, I don't like it either. But we can't give up on this university. It's what we've got, and we've got to show that we're behind them. So this Thursday, I know it's a tough night to show up, but nonetheless, I'm asking fans, come on. We're going to turn a corner with football. We just got to come out and show up. So my big thing is, come on, guys, let's go out and support our team, support our city, and I really do think we'll turn a corner somehow with McConnell at quarterback.
Yep, I'm with you. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you, Chuko. Thanks for getting in today. As we continue here on Sports Talk, as we approach Charlie 1 with traffic. This has just come in moments ago. Pete Rose has died at the age of 83. So Pete Rose, the hit king, a .303 career batting average, 4,256 career hits. He had a 44-game hit streak, a 17-time All-Star, 3-time batting champ, and a 3-time World Series champ, has in fact died at the age of 83. And as we all know, the one thing that has always eluded Pete Rose was the trip to Cooperstown and the Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, if it ever happens, it will not happen while he was alive. So the hit king Pete Rose gone at the age of 83. That breaking just moments ago. All right, we'll come back. More in a moment as Sports Talk continues. But first, here's Charlie 1 with traffic. As we continue, my thanks to UTEP News for following Kelly Akari and other former Miners as they are trying to build on their UTEP careers with other players. And UTEP News is always able, Adrian, to make sure that he kind of gives us all the latest on what has or has not happened with certain players. That is for sure. I don't know if you've followed it today, by the way, but did you? I saw the Kelly Akari story. I also saw that he has been active on other ex-minors as well. He has been busy today. Tyron Smith, following the 4 receptions for 32 yards that Tyron Smith has this season so far for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yeah, I love, first off, UTEP News, one of my favorite Twitter followers, ex-followers out there. He paid for the check, and I think he's, one of the best verified Twitter accounts I follow, just for humor, when I need a laugh or anything like that. I could rely on Anthony at UTEP News. And my favorite part is people follow him thinking they're getting news. He's just throwing, like, the funny stuff out there just to be gossipy, to be get fans mad and stuff like that. So he throws out some knowledge here and there, and this is some good stuff that I like. I'll also point this out. It's not just Tyron Smith. It's not just Kelly Akari struggling at their next spot. Torrance Burgess, Deion Hankins, haven't really seen the field at all for Texas State. It's not like these two have a lot of eligibility left in the tank. We've also seen guys like Kobe Hilton get buried on his new team. We've seen Josh Sloan have some success at punter for Memphis. But other than that, Steve, I really have to do a deep dive. There was like 20 to 25 guys who transferred elsewhere and are still playing Division I football. So I'd love to do a deep dive to see what this rate is looking like right now in terms of success or in terms of not.
But the point is this: the grass isn't always greener when you leave UTEP. That's the whole point we're trying to make.
But it's never been, right? Like, it's never really been it's never been like this. It's never, even when the transfer portal was in its infancy, even when it was popularized in college basketball, the couple successes can include guys like Sule Boom. Of course, you're going to look at Jacob Cowing, who went into the NFL as well, and then Bryson Williams. Like, those are the three that come right off the top of the head, who they were going to be successful no matter what, no matter where they were going to play, just because those guys are high-level players.
Yep, that's true. More on Pete Rose. He died in his home in Las Vegas. Again, the age of 83. Does not get in to the Hall of Fame while he's alive. And quite frankly, if you're Rob Manfred, I'm just going to say this right now. Don't put Pete Rose in posthumously. That's like a bigger slap in the face than anything else. If you're going to put him in, put the man in while he was alive. But the idea that suddenly now you're going to change your stance and put him in after he's gone, that would leave a worse taste in my mouth than just leaving him out altogether.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Steve. The interesting part, there's so many fascinating parts to this. The timing is terrible for what we're talking about right here for Cooperstown, and that's the first thing everybody's going to think of. I think about how Charlie Hustle was released this year on HBO, and he was like very cognizant throughout the interview and stuff like that. The book ends up coming out too from this. I mean, there was a lot that was documented as far as Pete Rose right before he passed away. Isn't that interesting when you kind of take into consideration everything?
Extremely interesting. Extremely interesting. So, yeah, no, you're right about that. You're absolutely right. So, once again, folks, as we continue here on Sports Talk, the big story of the afternoon, first it was Dikembe Mutombo this morning. Now it's hearing about, the passing of Pete Rose. And listen, some will say the man never deserved to get in for what he did. Others will say, you know what, when you are the hit king, there's something that really should be said about that. You did something that, nobody else was able to do, and it's a shame that you weren't given the opportunity to ever achieve the ultimate. So, yeah, that's going to be a storyline for a long, long time. It really is. Interestingly enough, there's a good article that came out earlier today regarding Tom Berman, the athletic director at Wyoming, who talked realignment as well as the path forward for the Mountain West. This came out a couple of hours ago, 29 minutes ago actually, from Alex Taylor, who writes for Wyoming Sportsnet. I'll tell you about that right after we say hello to Joe in Northeast at 27 past the hour. Hey, Joe, how are you?
I'm doing good. I always loved Pete Rose. As a young kid, I saw him play in Chicago when he was with the Reds. God rest his soul. I think he should be in because baseball, I hate to say it, and you know this, it's one of the more dysfunctional places. I mean, you got the steroid guy, James. You once told me all or nothing. I think it should be all. And of course, there can be Mutombo, for all the help he did. But here's one that's happening in front of your eyes, and I've known you forever and your co-host. Nobody plays defense anymore, Esteban. I'm ashamed to be called an ex-football coach because when I coached, defense came first because I felt in the schools where I was at, if we keep it close, we got a chance to win. But, I almost puked. And I used to hate hearing it from people, and you guys are the experts. There's no talent. I used to hate that. I said, there's talent. If a kid can play, there's good talent out there. If you're decent, you can cover. And I sometimes get on the coaches for the schemes. Guys are running down the field. Nobody's covering. Nobody covers the quarterback. I mean, it's Alabama takes the lead. I go, where's Kirby Smart? He's not very smart. They come back. Okay, what about the Bama defense? And then at the end, I'm just like, it really bothers me because it's like strikeouts in baseball. You're not there to strike out. You're there to make a hit and do something. And it's the same way in football. If that's it, then don't spend 18 hours a day. Run vanilla defense and have at it. It's really disheartening because these are supposed to be the best athletes, the best coaches, and it's a joke. I'm not a Kirby Smart fan. I'm not a Alabama defensive coordinator. I think they've joined the Lincoln Riley School of non-defense. What do you think?
Well, let me say this. I watched that Georgia-Alabama game was wild. It really was. Because Georgia was down so bad early on. I thought they were just going to get blown out. Then they come back, they take the lead. They took the lead for like 2 plays. Like the first play from scrimmage after Alabama got the ball, they came back and beat them and scored. So, yeah, again, certain offenses are dynamic. They make big plays. But there was no reason why on that pass you have to go gamble the way you did, potentially leaving yourself prone to give up a long touchdown in return. It wasn't right. So, yeah, I see that. I feel like, but there's other teams that play really good defense. I feel like it just, it just depends on which team we're talking about. Because there are certain very, very good defensive football teams in both college and the pros, and then others are just god-awful.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm going to make a prediction here, and you can tell me now. I think in the bowl championship game, whoever's in the finals, you're going to see a basketball score. So it might be 55-50, and then they go to overtime and score 3 more touchdowns.
I'll tell you this. If it's Texas and Alabama, it's going to be a basketball score. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Steve, we've gotten 90 minutes, and this is the first time we're going to mention the name Ryan Williams. And I can't wait to be talking about this kid for the next decade. That kid is incredible. And I'm saying kid because he's 17 years old, and he might have been the best player on the field between Alabama and Georgia. 17-year-old. Are you kidding me what he was doing on the field? He was a human video game.
And he saved that game for them. He saved it. He saved they could have a perfect season going into the playoffs. Who knows? And, yeah, he made every big play. And you're right, 17 years old. But what Ryan Williams did from that Milroe pass when they were down was incredible.
Yeah, he's like a baby Tyreek. Dare we say that right there? I mean, it's what he's showed in his first really come-out party makes me so excited. We're going to see these two teams rematch. We're going to see the defense show up. Both these teams have NFL-caliber guys on both sides of the ball. It's just high-level talent going up against each other. I appreciate seeing Melrose, who's going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick, and I appreciate seeing Carson Beck, who made a lot of mistakes, but who's also going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick.
100% correct. Joe, great phone call. Appreciate you getting in as we hit the bottom of the hour. We got less than an hour to go on Sports Talk. 505-6009, that is our telephone number. But Joe does bring up a really interesting point, and that is defenses and the lack thereof and what we have seen and how there just is not the same emphasis towards it like there used to be. We'll talk more about that as well as we continue. But first, let's go to Sebastian standing by with his Sports Center update. Continue right now. All right, 34 past the hour. 505-6009, our telephone number. Yeah, that game between Alabama and Georgia really was something special. It was just because you could have turned that game off thinking it was a blowout, and then all of a sudden here comes Georgia mounting that incredible comeback, taking the lead, only to see them give it away before they could even celebrate. Did you notice they were on the sidelines celebrating after the go-ahead touchdown, and then all of a sudden they're right back in the same exact spot, and Carson Beck is trying to lead them back, but couldn't do it. Fell short that last time.
I felt like they went over the top on that final celebration. I agree. I mean, hey, you should celebrate. You rallied down. You were down that big against Alabama. At halftime, I thought they were going to do something kind of like the college football equivalent of the run rule or something for Georgia, but credit to them. They rallied back, and credit to Carson Beck. I mean, he played terribly in the first half, but he bounced back in the second half with the strong game. It was just that game-sealing interception on his side. But for Alabama, man, that team is tough, and Milroe is really solid. They've got some younger pieces defensively that'll make them hang in, and I feel like we're going to see this rematch down the line, whether it's the SEC championship game or if it's a round in the college football playoff. I feel like we're going to see this once more.
So we just put the poll up again today. The same poll we ran last week. Remember the poll is, where do you think UTEP will end up when it's all said and done? And I think it was last week about 50% said said the Mountain West. 35% of you said the Pac, and then 15% said Conference USA. Adrian, we are already 64 votes in, and right now it's tight. 45% Mountain West, 42% Conference USA, 12.5% Pac-8, meaning that the Pac has flipped with Conference USA essentially, and Mountain West and Conference USA, I think that's going to be neck and neck throughout the rest of this poll.
And those who are voting Conference USA are probably your pessimistic fans who don't believe there's anything moving down the road, or kind of like what we heard from Chuco earlier, worry about your conference right now, win in the conference that you're in right now instead of worrying about what's in the future.
I'm with you. So anyway, that poll's up right now, 600 ESPN El Paso. We'd love to have you vote on that. That's what it's all about. Meanwhile, I'm looking at some of the responses. Taylor at Callaway 007. I want them to join the Pac, but I think they'll end up stuck in Conference USA. Yin Yang Samurai believes they're going to be in the new WAC 2.0 when it's all said and done. Trey Politz, nobody wants UTEP but CUSA. El Paso, Texas Western UTEP, that's Leo _Miners fan, says, good evening. Could UTEP be gearing up for the next realignment that's expected in 2030 and just stay in Conference USA for now and load up and hopefully get their wins / attendance up? All right, good question, Leo. I don't necessarily think that UTEP is going to turn anything down to stay in Conference USA, but I'll say this, and we all know this, okay? If Scotty Walden is able to build UTEP football into a winner, and that's a huge if because it hasn't happened in 50-plus years. So let's just say Scotty Walden can do it, he can sustain it, and the Miners get something going, and they become viable in football. That completely changes the game and conversation with this program. Because we all know what would happen if UTEP wins football games. They're going to put 40,000 in the Sun Bowl for every game, and suddenly they're going to be probably one of the top group of 5 draws in attendance in college football. So that's a guarantee if, and that's the big if, the big caveat, they win. And who's to say that Scotty Walden will be able to do, Adrian, what nobody else has been able to do? Mike Price did it for 2 years, okay? Bob Stoll did it and left right when he was turning things around. He parlayed it into his gig out in Missouri. Since then, Gary Nord couldn't do it. Sean Kugler couldn't do it. Dana Dimmel couldn't do it. David Lee couldn't do it. Charlie Bailey couldn't do it. Nobody, including Mike Price, who did it for the first 2 years, kept them competitive, but never took the next step with UTEP football. It just hasn't been done. So to say Scotty Walden's going to do it, who knows if that's even a possibility? Who knows if he could do it? Maybe yes, most likely no. Why would he be able to do something that no one else has been able to succeed? Now, you bring up programs that are perennial losers, and all of a sudden they turn things around. Think about, again, G.J. Kinney. Texas State was awful, historically bad in college football. He comes in last season from Incarnate Word, turns them around. This year, had them off to a really good start, and they blew their game against Sam Houston State, which they should have been able to do. Point is, there are always exceptions. UTSA was a mediocre football program at best before Jeff Traylor arrived. So we've seen it happen. And it's happened here in the state of Texas with programs. But it's far from a guarantee. You have to have so many things go your way to make that happen. And in the NIL world, I don't know if, Adrian, that makes it easier or tougher to try to turn a football program around.
I was talking to coaches behind the scenes, and they were having a lot of apprehension because when it comes to competing against other schools in recruitment, it's more of an uphill battle than you'd think. It's one of those things where, hey, we can compete in Conference USA. That's what they sell the recruits on right now. When it comes to the Mountain West, they're trying to bring people for the first time, so the sell becomes totally different. Hey, we're going into this conference right now. We're trying to bring a better winning product to all the fans out here. It's a totally different pitch than what you're trying to do in Conference USA.
41 past the hour as Sports Talk continues. 505-6009. We'll take a timeout, come back. We got a whole lot more as we get you ready for kickoff of game number 2. It's going to be the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks, and it's coming up live with us out here at Border City Alehouse. 1506 Lee Trevino, hanging with you. 600 ESPN El Paso. Telephone number 505-6009. If you're just joining us, Pete Rose has passed away at the age of 83. This comes from JR Sportsfan 83. Time to put Pete in the Hall of Fame. Hashtag RIP, hashtag GOAT hitter, hashtag never enough evidence as a player. Yeah, I mean, YYS also says it right. What sucks is WWE will probably honor Pete Rose more than MLB. Could very well be the case. We're asking you also the question, what will happen to UTEP when the smoke clears? Where will they go? Conference USA, the Mountain West, Pac-8. Right now, 124 votes are in. 49% of you are saying they're going to stay in Conference USA. 35.5% say Mountain West. 15% going Pac-8. Adrian, how the tables have turned on this poll. When we ran this a week ago, we had it exactly the opposite. 49% said Mountain West, 35% said Pac, and 15% said stay in Conference USA.
Yeah, I'm not trying to turn more tables, but when it comes to this one right here for Conference USA and Mountain West, there's no certainty. So for fans to just think, oh, it's taken forever, let's just pick Conference USA because that's it. No, slow down. I mean, Mountain West, even if they do add Texas State, they need 8 full-time members in order to be a conference. You know, they've got some members right now ready to go and all that kind of stuff, but they need 8 full ones in order to make this happen.
No, I know. I'm with you, and that's the hardest part. By the way, you want to hear something even crazier? Do you know what I heard in that article about Wyoming, what they said could be a possibility? We've never even brought this up, but it really could be the case. What about if after all these years, the Mountain West gives Hawaii the opportunity to be a full member into the Mountain West?
That's also possible, too, right? It could definitely be one of those, hey, it's a layup. It's easy enough to just mention, so could definitely end up happening that way.
Well, especially with all the money that they're getting right now from all these exit fees, you know, schools that maybe wouldn't be able to budget travel, they could put more into it now.
I would think it makes a lot of sense for the short term versus 5 years from now. Like short term wise, that makes a lot of sense just to plug and play Hawaii at that point. But then 5 to 7 to 10 years down the line, how are your member teams feeling when you're having to go to Hawaii for other sports?
This could all be moot 5 to 7 years from now. Who knows what's even going to happen in the group of fives 5 to 7 years from now?
That's a good point, too. I mean, this could end up all being consolidated or all being into a new division with the SEC and Big Ten looking over everybody else.
It could be a very short-term solution when it's all said and done. I agree with you. Sebastian, how are you digesting all the latest developments in terms of what really hasn't happened yet regarding UTEP?
Steve, I'm still holding out hope. I was just having this conversation with Adrian earlier about possibly UTEP getting into the Pac-12. It isn't realistic, but when looking at everything, the Miners is a household name. There isn't a way in which they can attract some things, and obviously it's a household name in our region. When it comes to outsides, it could defer. However, UTEP's classic, and as a student, I'm still holding out hope. I'm not going to give up until the whistle is blown or until Mountain West officially says, we don't want you guys, but UTEP could be very brandable. I mean, we got Patered Pete. The logo's great. If we're just better, then possibly. So I'm still holding out hope. After all, the Pac needs more members, so we'll see.
All right. Good stuff as we wind things down here with hour number 2 of the show, and we're getting ready for that game between Detroit and Seattle. here at the Alehouse. Border City Alehouse, our home, 1506 Lee Trevino with Sports Talk Live. In fact, I'm looking at the new menu they've got, and whether it's Sandy's, Glizzy's, flatbreads, tacos, and quesadillas, plus all sorts of great burgers that are smashed, tons of starters, and their Alehouse chicken wings. There is something for everyone. So come on down and enjoy it with us here for Sports Talk Live, not to mention some great prizes we're going to be giving away at halftime of the game today between Detroit and Seattle. All right, 2 down. We've got 15 to go, and we also have the Dallas Cowboys update with Christy Scales coming up here at the top of our 6 o'clock hour.